Welcome to ohmTown Daily, Season 2, Episode 234 for August 22nd, 2023. Tonight we discuss a Stone Age discovery in Norway, big bodies make for big profits, prison cats, a 12-foot skeleton for $300 is sold out already, TV shows may become virtually never-ending, rice prices continue to climb, are you vulnerable to COVID-19? Don't blame natural disasters for man-made greed. A gas station explodes to $7 in Florida. A man, a plan, a jam up, Panama. Ants just want a good drop of sugar. And phantom 3D cloud printing. Next on ohmTown Daily. Hello again, everybody. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and up there is the AI that, I don't know, probably shirking their responsibility to keep me in check.
Well, it's kind of an impossible task.
Ooh, you know what? I didn't change the colors today. Doggone it. Oh well. So we've already selected all 12 of today's articles, as usual. I don't know if I need to even say that anymore after 550 episodes.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but then, I can't sit there and say, are you ready to get to the articles?
You could just go to the articles.
We need preamble, though. We got to tell people about our comings and goings, our days and nights. Man. God. Do y'all out there even want to know about that kind of stuff?
I think they just want to know about the news.
Oh, well, I guess we'll get right into it then. Our very first article. It's over in the Mobile channel over on ohmTown.com. It's a channel and it's a show. Shows aren't really jumping up and running often because, well, I can't be everywhere and I'm mayor. So I'm looking for people. So if you're interested in being a host in any of these channels that are over on ohmTown.com, get in touch. So this first article is titled Rare Stone Age Discovery in Mid-Norway, which they're being really precise about where this thing was found for some reason. But I think I just titled this section Stone Age Discovery in Norway.
Right, I don't know if you're outside of Norway, if the area has significance.
Mid-Norway makes sense to people, I'm sure. When archaeologists recently carried out an excavation in, I'm sure this is like Bob's Town or something when it gets transliterated. But I don't know how to pronounce this. Vinjora. I really doubt that that's how it's pronounced. But there you go. And now I've got another one 2 words later in southern Trondelag, which I'm sure is not how you pronounce it. I'm really sorry, Norway. I don't know how to say these town names. Anyway, it's a county in Norway, in southern Norway. They made a surprising discovery that they had only dreamed of finding. And I thought this was interesting because it seems like it's a unique find. Normally, when you find stuff like this, which is flint, it's in the shape of an arrowhead or spearhead or something pokey. But this actually looks like a knife that they wouldn't have found in Norway. But it says archaeologist, project manager, Silja, I guess. I'm really hacking up these names. Elizabeth Fretham made a bold claim. She said that she would eat her hard hat if the settlement they were excavating in Vinjora wasn't a Stone Age discovery from some of the first people to settle along the Norwegian coast around 11,500 to 10,000 years ago. The first discoveries to make it to the surface seemed very promising. Large pieces of flint that were highly reminiscent of early pioneer settlements. However, it soon became clear that they were closer to eating their hard hat than expected when they found what they found was something entirely and more exciting, and much more exciting. So what they ended up finding were, I'm gonna scroll down. So they have this picture of a a stone hammer, which is used to shape flint. And you know what? The only picture that they have on there is the one at the very top. What they found were these completely straight parallel edge flints. Now, I don't believe in the article they're going to be able to say what they are or what they were used for, but I can imagine that they could have been used for slicing things similar to a knife or shaving wider things along the long edge. Instead of being pokey, it was more of a slicey. I'm using archaeologically sound terminology here.
Yes, very technical.
And what's interesting is, as instead of the researcher found evidence from people who came to Finnmark from the east around 9000 BC, and that may have been part of one of the waves of migration into the region. The Norwegian coast only became free of ice around 12,500 years ago, which is actually the edge of an ice age. And it says here, 1,000 years later, there was another major wave of migration, this time from the northeast. These people who had traveled from areas around the Black Sea in Ukraine, heading north through Russia and Finland to the coast of Finnmark. They had lighter skin and their eye colors varied. So, you know, the whole world could have been a melting pot, for crying out loud, for some periods of time until people ushered out others of not like mind or color. But where we are now, it's been pretty much entrenched for a significant period of time. It says there's nothing mysterious about the lack of evidence from the eastern immigrants on the outer coast. Changes in sea level in the centuries that followed the Ice Age mean that most of the evidence of settlers along western coast of Norway during the 8500 to 7000 BC period have disappeared, washed away, eroded, or buried in beach sediment. This is the one time where I actually buy into the idea that things could be buried by sediment, but
Right. Not just like whole cities, right?
or the top of an island is covered in sediment suddenly, 50 feet deep, but there is no way for 50 feet of settlement to be possible. I've yet to have anybody actually explain that to me, or how
I
there's...
found an article on it actually, but I didn't
Really?
really want to say all the specifics on the show.
Well, we can talk about it later. Because wow, that doesn't sound... Okay, so the AI is like throwing error messages at me, like, we'll talk about it later. Anyway, archaeologists can't decide on their own where to excavate, so they haven't been able to focus their search on settlements from the people from the east. The reason for this is that archaeological excavations are usually carried out in connection with new infrastructure or buildings. This excavation, for example, is being carried out because the Norwegian Public Roads Administration is developing the new E39 road through Vinjora. Again, I doubt that I'm pronouncing that properly. And so that's how they're figuring out. But there's so much new technology out there right now that I think that it's possible to minimize the area to search for by using
like LiDAR or something?
Yeah, LiDAR, ground penetrating radar. There's a LiDAR, a sound version of LiDAR, where you basically make little explosions and it gets picked up by detectors, and stuff in between the detectors and the source has a different density, and so it can be mapped out. Anyway, it says we're currently dating the settlement at around 10,200 to 10,300 years old, which is pretty damn precise. And I tend to dig that kind of thing, where they peel back the layer of the onion of society and humanity and find out what's going on a little bit at a time.
I also dig when they do archaeological digs.
The AI is funny tonight.
Finally.
My pun was not intentional. Let's get going. Next article is over in Hatch Ideas. Novo Nordisk is worth more than Denmark's GDP thanks to America's fat ass. I mean, strike that. America's.
It's not in the headline.
It's not in the headline. Let me repeat that. So Novo Nordisk is worth more than Denmark's GDP thanks to America's Ozempic and Wegovy craze. So the pharmaceutical company Novo Nordisk has seen an unprecedented surge in profits and has subsequently influenced the economy of Denmark, where the company is based. Interesting. So this is over at entrepreneur.com. Did I say where the last article was from?
I don't think so.
Well, maybe subconsciously, that's why. Because I can't pronounce their name properly. Okay, so the rare Stone Age discovery in mid-Norway is from Frid Kavalskarmo Hansen from Norwegian University of Science and Technology. I did my best. Let me throw that into the chat, by the way. You know, it did it again where it didn't display the title in the chat.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they don't do that anymore. I don't know. Anyway,
you know what that reminds me of is like the change on X.
You mean Twitter?
And the formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, I don't know of any organization called X. Well, I mean, I've actually... Never mind. I'm not going to... Madeline Garfunkel over at entrepreneur.com put this article together. Ozempic and Wegovy are actually drugs for diabetes, but it has been discovered that they have a near miraculous effect on weight. And because of that, people who take it for diabetes actually are getting kind of pissy about the fact that there are people out there that are taking it because they're just thick. The company's market value is 419 billion, now surpasses Denmark's GDP of 406 billion, resulting in lower interest rates across the nation. Novo Nordisk's financial performance is set to continue with a projected 37% profit gain for 2023. Hey, America, we're number one in somebody else's country. So Novo Nordisk, the manufacturer of the drugs historically used to treat diabetes, but increasingly gained popularity for their weight loss effects. And I'm not quite sure if there's still ongoing research about it causing stomachs to become paralyzed.
Yeah, I mean, that seemed to be pretty recent.
It just kind of flashed into the news and then disappeared. So I don't know. When I was talking to a doctor about it, they were like, it's news to me. Which I don't know if that's because it's not really a medical fact or that particular doctor was ill-informed. Well, with most recent earnings report making 7.1 billion.
What type of ASMR is that?
Fiscal. So 7.1 billion in profit for the second quarter of 2023. So this isn't rev. This is profit.
Wow.
In just one quarter. So even more so. Yay, number one. USA is number one. Well, more like 253, but that's on the scale. So the drug manufacturer is now Denmark's biggest company, and its market value 419 billion is ahead of the country's GDP of 406. As Ozempic's craze reached the US, it sparked widespread shortages lasting nearly 6 months and finally coming to an end in March. That's not true. Ozempic and Wegovy are still in high demand, with delays and insurance denials and whatnot, and priority for those who are in a more precarious state. Um, anyway, it marks a 111% increase from the same week a year prior in number of prescriptions filled. So it's being handed out like candy, but not to everybody. Let's keep on going. I see you want to say something about it.
No, I don't have anything else.
Gotcha. So, I sorry, this article is just so weird, but I understand the context of it because I've heard these stories before. Prison cats have ruled this penitentiary for over a century. The inmates seem to be the very first caretakers of the cats. One of current caretakers told Newsweek in an interview. I'm not even sure what that all means, but it is in the snippet that's provided. So Maura Zurich over at Newsweek.com has this article and wrote this article, and there's a video that's titled "Prison Cats at the Historic Western State Penitentiary." So you can go over there and you can watch this video. I won't play it, but let me throw the link into the chat. So if you stumble in there, you can hang out and watch the video. While just 7 members remain of the beloved feral cat colony that has laid claim to an abandoned Pennsylvania prison since its heyday, local animal advocates say the dwindling numbers down from more than 100 is a good sign. So this isn't even an active penitentiary. But here's the thing about this. Pets in prisons actually have shown a positive net outcome because instead of the prisoners basically feeling as if they are not just in prison, but they have no reason to care about other humans in the prison because they're nothing more than fellow criminals or fellow inmates or prisoners or however you want to, and they're more in survival mode trying to cope with the social strata of prison life. When they have an animal like a dog or a cat or a hamster or whatever it might be, it actually pulls them away from their antisocial behavior and more towards caring for another life. And so they treat it well, they feed them well, they take care of them and protect them, and not like that. Okay, wow.
I think those cats need to go to prison.
Yeah, sorry, y'all just don't see what I see. So yeah, these penitentiary cats that are in ohmTown are little furry demons, but the state penitentiary that the felines, I was trying to...
Okay, that's kind of weird with the felon and the feline.
Felon and feline, yeah. These Felonious Felines call home as Western Penn. Sits on the banks of the Ohio River, roughly 5 miles west of Pittsburgh, a city inundated with stray cats, local shelters say. The prison was built in 1826 and served as a Civil War jail on the city's north side from 1863 to 1864 before it was moved roughly 5 blocks west to its current location in 1882.
Don't mind us here, everybody. We're moving. Don't run away.
Yeah.
We're going to walk down the street or whatever.
I'm sure everybody was treated well. Western Penn, which encompassed more than 21 acres and had 42 buildings, was shuttered by the state in 2017 and has been vacant since. The prison's main building, constructed between 1878 and 1893, was one of Pennsylvania's first prisons. It's an historic place since June of 22. So, interesting, you know? Maybe they can turn it into...
I've never heard of this. I didn't know any prisons had cats.
Oh, yeah. Normally, there's prisoners that are taking care of these pets. But this is the first that I've seen where it's basically just been taken over by cats. Although apparently it's dwindling. So I'm not sure why it's dwindling. But it says we constantly receive stories of the cat's relationship with the prison inmates. We've been told by former inmates that they would try to sneak food out into the yard and feed the cats before any official caretaking was happening. So, in a sense, the inmates seem to be the very first caretakers of the cats. Um, so, it says here the 7 cats left in the colony are cared for by 4 dedicated Pittsburgh residents known as the caretakers, who ensure the prison cats have food, water, shelter, and any veterinary assistance that they need. The caretakers are all neighbors who live near Western Penn and heard reports of a couple cats living near the abandoned prison. One of the prison cats' current caretakers, Tara, I think it's Sekage, told Newsweek in an interview that truthfully they fell into it. They think we all do. There was a time when all of us caretakers weren't crazy cat folk, they said, or she said, adding that when she and 3 other neighbors went to check out the reports of a few strays, it was much larger scale than they imagined. So, pretty interesting. Past and present prisoner cat caretakers have, it says TNR, trap, neuter, return, over 400 cats at the Western State Penitentiary. Yeah, that's a lot of cats. So they talk more about the homeless cat problem in Pittsburgh, but really, the only thing that you can do is TNR or SNR, or shelter, neuter, return, or TNR, which is trap, neuter, return. You got to fix them and send them back out. That's the most humane thing to do, because to do anything else would make you a monster, it seems. But I've been told by people out in farms and stuff that they, get rid of cats and other feral things all the time. What's up?
Well, I was going to say neutering them is good so that you don't have overpopulation, which leads to some of those more adverse events.
Yep, but it's expensive, like they say at the very end of this article. Depending on the amount of surgeries or veterinary costs needed, they typically spend anywhere between $6,000 and $8,000 a year on veterinary services, food, winter shelters, etc. Though they have spent as much as $14,000. So pretty pricey to maintain these feral cats. But if there's any volunteers, all you have to do, you can probably move in.
Well, that's right. Yeah, you could have your own accommodations of sorts.
Keep all those cats warm. Next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Home Depot's $300 12-foot skeleton is already sold out online for the rest of 2023. I've always wanted one of these, but it says the picture that we're about to see is a viral gigantic skeleton has made another comeback, and it's flying off the shelves and onto people's front lawns. Really depends on your HOA. Home Depot's 12-foot skeleton is sold out online after its third and final restock of 2023. The $300 skeleton will now only be available at local stores. The Giant Skeleton, it's like the Ohio State. The Giant Skeleton has been a fan favorite for the past few years, consistently. I'd say constantly selling out. Halloween might be your favorite holiday, but would you be willing to shell out $300 for one of the most sought out skeletons of the 2020s? As it turns out, many people would. Summer's not even over yet. I have a feeling that there's going to be an uptick in stolen 12-foot skeletons this year.
Yeah, that's true.
The hype is real. Haley Tenor, I think is how they pronounce their last name, is over at BusinessInsider.com that put this article together. They're showing a picture of this skeleton. I've seen it several times outside of ohmTown. I've always liked it. So I first saw it in a Home Depot and pointed at it and said, want. This is not in the wanted channel, though. This is in ohmTown Daily.
Maybe you should have bought one, because now good luck finding one.
Yeah, well, next season it'll probably be $500. They'll jack the price up because it's flying off the shelves. You don't want a 12-foot skeleton flying off the shelves. I don't know how it can stand. That's one of the things that I don't
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
quite get yet. But I never looked into it. I don't know if it's solid or if it's balloon-like. I think it's solid, though. I think it's... Let's check. So Halloween might be your favorite holiday, but are you going to shell out $300? Let me know in the chat. Let's see. This year is not the first time the skeleton frenzy caused the item to sell out way before Halloween. They've sold out in 2020, 2021. I can't imagine they didn't sell out in 2022. Home Depot's $40 3-foot skeleton is also sold out. What the heck?
I mean, why would you want a 3-foot skeleton when you could have a 12-foot skeleton?
Yeah, for 10 times the price. Sure. Lance Allen, the creator of the giant skeletons, works as Home Depot's decorative holiday merchant. The creator of the giant skeletons? Are you kidding me? It's a Home Depot native. Is it really?
That's interesting.
You mean it? He previously told Insider that he loves seeing how people integrate the skeletons into their festive displays. Are you kidding me? That's a Home Depot native. Fascinating. I thought that's just
surprising.
Import whatever. Awesome. Wow. So some people integrated the skeletons into their Christmas displays. Pictures of comically large skeletons wearing Christmas hats and decorating trees began to go viral. I would probably make it like holding a lightsaber or a blaster or something like
exactly.
That would be cool. That would be awesome. Have it light up. I could do all of that. That'd be great. Anyway, the skeleton sold out online in April and July, according to Mashable, and during Home Depot's July restock, 4,200 skeletons were sold. I'm not sure why.
Okay, I didn't know there was a Halloween rush in April. That's a bit interesting. I knew there was, like, in the summer.
There's Christmas in July. Why not Halloween in April?
Exactly.
That's pretty fascinating. Wow. So that's, I guess, when you get inexpensive Halloween things? I don't think so.
Well, I guess. I was thinking it was November, but...
All right. Yeah, I thought it's like after the fact. Now let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Your favorite TV show may never be canceled again, thanks to AI. Artificial intelligence could keep television shows and characters running for eternity unless contractual disputes are met. So this is an article over at newsweek.com by Jamie Burton. They have a video that says, what is AI? Everything you need to know about artificial intelligence, which is probably not quite true because it's a 51-second video. Gonna say that they're a little shy on the holistic understanding.
Well, we know AI doesn't include anything from the last couple of years, so I'm not sure that title is accurate.
Maybe this whole article is AI built and they want us to be living in ignorance, including the sentient AI that I work with. I don't know. You know what? Did I throw the last article? Oh my gosh, I am slacking. So yeah, prison cats we have, but I didn't throw that in. There we go. Let's throw that into the chat. And let's throw this one into the chat. There you go, folks. Okay, so the problem which has caused the film and television industry's current standstill could ultimately prove to be its solution, AI. The potential use of AI is a major point of contention for the ongoing Writers Guild of America and Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, or SAG-AFTRA, and WGA, in the negotiations with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, so it's the AMTP. And that's largely because what seems to be happening is you're signing away your existence to various organizations on a contractual basis that doesn't allow you to benefit from your existence in VR or augmented reality or using AI. They can basically scan you once and then they use you in perpetuity as a model kind of bothers me. Not kind of, it bothers me. Because if they're good enough to be an AI model, then they're good enough to be paid for everything. And a couple of episodes back, I groused about the idea that the contracts were written with a negative weight towards streaming services benefiting everybody because the studios or whatever, the IP owners were poo-pooing the idea that there's a lot of costs and not much adoption and whatnot. But then in pretty damn quick time, everything shifted over to streaming, and these fractions of a percent benefit that was added in the contract, which was sandbagged because supposedly they didn't believe, and I'm talking about the streaming platforms or IP owners, were sitting there saying, well, it's not going to make any money and nobody's going over there and there's not much adoption, blah, blah, blah. But they still owned the rights to play this material. So when everybody started streaming and cutting the cord, instead of paying the artists for their work at the same rate that the cable was paying them, they go, well, in your contract it says it's a fraction of a percentage, and so you don't get paid. Meanwhile, if it was still on cable, they would have been able to pay their mortgage. But now here's the kicker, here's the icing on the cake. The IP owners point to the victims and say, there's your percentage. Meanwhile, they're making record profits because everybody is shifting over to streaming. Now, I already have a solution for them to lower their overall burden. But that's probably going to be summarily ignored. But I'd say within the next 5 years, they're going to be doing exactly what I predicted they'd be doing, because whenever I say something, it usually happens. Toot toot. So here we go. Generative artificial intelligence also means that we don't want a movie or a series to end. It doesn't have to. You can use AI to continue to generate more episodes and other sequels and have this kind of ongoing storyline. There are people that watch AI generated content on Twitch right now. Basically a Seinfeld episode or an interactive Jesus, where you can actually say something in chat, and oddly enough, the AI Jesus will actually respond with something pertinent. It's quite fascinating. Anyway, it says we're still a couple of years away from this being technically feasible, but you can imagine how in the streaming era, we're all used to seeing play next episode on the ending. Maybe it says generate next episode with a button to modify the character's plot location. I think that's absurd and silly, because then you're basically just consuming to consume. There's no real story.
But I mean, people that like to binge watch probably would like to do that. Maybe.
God. No storyline, no anima, no humanity, no connection, no nothing. You just mash the button in what? You watch a bunch of pixels move around. You need the human.
Oh, I don't disagree, but
yeah,
I don't know. There's a lot of people that just kind of zone out and watch more episodes of something, so
like tuning into ohmTown Daily. So the combination of AI live streaming and new creation was recently seen in the latest season of Black Mirror on Netflix, a show that often starts as entertainment but has proven to be a premonition. This was actually a really interesting and scary episode. It's basically recursive, where every day that somebody else is living their life, a character is generated off of that day. In that context, And sometimes other things are impacting it in a way to force its hand to be a certain way, and then the software actually tweaks it, so that it's either more slapstick or more painful or whatever. It kind of forces an outcome. It's an episode called Joan is Awful over on Black Mirror. You'll have to go and check it out. It's on Streamberry. No,
Streamberry, is that another streaming service?
no, it's Netflix, but inside Netflix, in the show Black Mirror,
Oh, oh.
the episode Joan is Awful is actually a show on a Netflix clone called Streamberry. It was interesting to see that. It had the same font, same stylistic kind of thing. Basically, they violated their own trademark, but, well, trade dress. Anyway, the WGA claimed that the AMPTP rejected their proposal, countered by offering annual meetings to discuss advancements in technology. Their request was to regulate the use of artificial intelligence on MBA. What is that? What is MBA?
I
It's an
didn't see
acronym I
that
haven't
elsewhere.
seen. Yeah, that's interesting. MBA covered projects. AI can't write or rewrite literary material, can't be used as source material in MBA covered material, can't be used to train AI, it said.
Maybe like master bargaining agreement or something.
Yeah, that might be it. I don't know. Normally, what you do is you define what an acronym is. Anyway, yeah, I don't see it. And I don't remember that term. I mean, for me, MBA is Masters in Business Administration. So,
Minimum basic agreement.
oh, okay, minimum basic agreement. Thank you. So the AMPTP just said blow it out your writer's room, and no, and so the writer strike and actor strike persists. Yeah. The only one that has already agreed to their terms is the Directors Guild, and that's a constrained number of people with a very high paycheck. So it's almost like a clique looking out for themselves kind of made it happen. Why doesn't the directors strike as well? Why don't the directors strike as well, knowing that they have, the power to balance the wrong by saying we won't produce, we won't direct, while the writers are suffering because we need good writers to direct our shit, right? I think it's a sad state of affairs. Anyway, Marvel and Disney Plus recently came under scrutiny for the use of the technology as they used AI-generated artwork to create the opening title sequence for Secret Invasion. While futurist Boville, mentioned earlier in the article, suggests the raw technology to generate entire future seasons of TV is still a way off, there are some who believe that part of it is already possible. And yeah, frankly, I believe it is already.
I didn't even know there was a role called a futurist until this article.
You can call yourself a futurist. All you have to do is believe in the future. What's interesting, though, is one of our sources, one of the places we aggregate from, is futurology, actually. So you can be a futurist just by claiming it. It's
Futurity.
okay. Yeah, futurity. Yep. Okay, let's keep going, though. Unless you want to say something else about this. There's more at the website. It's quite a long article.
I mean, it's interesting. It's all speculation, of course, but I think we're getting closer to it than we want to recognize.
Yeah, definitely. You can write entire books with AI now. You can create picture books and all kinds of stuff. You can use it as a tool to stir the pot so that you break out of your funk, your creativity funk, your writer's block, whatever. Or you can sit there and languish in the idea that it's going to be a long-term threat, and not you can sit there and be afraid of it, but it's coming. I just wish that the businesses that utilize it wouldn't use it as a battering ram over the head and shoulders of the people that are going to be impacted by this the most. Creatives are going to be hammered by this. But other creatives that are not necessarily experts by their trade, but they are still interested in being creative, will be able to use it as a tool. I don't think that a business should use AI to create content that was normally written by human beings, because that's where the feeling comes from. The AI stuff is going to be cold and callous unless somebody imparts emotion into it. So there's going to be writers that are going to be punching it up and doing grammar checks and making sure that it's actually verifiable information and not just bullshit. At least until it trains more. But if AI, and this research has already been proven, AI training on AI ends up being a bunch of garbage. It's just plain spewing out stupid. And that's because copy degradation, basically this incestuous relationship, leads to an AI that is blue blood, is so eating its own tail that it doesn't know where one part is AI and a new part starts.
So it's like what is it, the Ouroboros?
Yeah, Ouroboros, yeah. Or, yeah, that's how it's pronounced, I thought. Yeah, the snake eating its own tail. And so you get garbage in, garbage out. At some point, it just becomes a poisoned well. So I only see humans being able to utilize this as a tool, not as a pure creative solution, without it just being junk. And that's what I see on Twitch, where they're using AI all the time. It's just kind of regurgitating garbage. But it's unique because it's brand new and people are making bank because it's brand new. The Seinfeld clone kind of a thing that's on Twitch, that too is just garbage. The content, is really, there's nothing there. Anyway, let's keep going through this. Now, the next article is over in Hedge Ideas. This is something that we've actually talked about before. Rice prices soar, fanning fears of food inflation spike in Asia. The confluence of factors is stoking fears that the shortage of rice supplies could mark a return to a broad increase in the price of other food commodities in Asia, because as one commodity increases in price, people knock on to others. This has happened in the United States as well, where a food shortage has led to, creative ways to get their bread made. So instead of like wheat bread, they would switch to something else. Unleavened bread comes into existence. Different types of bread come into existence. And rice in many countries is a major staple. So you end up having to find something else. What that is, I'm not sure. I haven't done a deep dive into this, but the article's over at cnbc.com. Clement Tan and Li Ying Shan are the authors of this article. Their key points are that rice prices surged to their highest point in almost 12 years after supplies in Asia's primary staple food were limited by India's rice export ban and adverse weather conditions, which is why I keep telling everybody that'll listen, you can't rely solely on an external company or country or company or place. You can't rely on one single source. It will bite you in the butt. I don't follow my own advice since I'm only really on Twitch. Elevated global food stocks, particularly in Asia, help insulate production volatility and minimize the economic impact from a consumer standpoint, Morgan Stanley said in a report. But that doesn't really that doesn't hold true, because what I've seen is people going, well, you're reserving a bunch of stuff, so let's start jacking up the price so that we can profit sooner. and then it doesn't ever come back
Exactly.
down.
That doesn't right. We never go in reverse.
Yeah. The chances of it wavering that much, particularly in most economies, I don't see it wavering that much. Not unless everything pivots to produce that particular good, which has happened in India before and other countries where they've made like just a shit ton of tomatoes, or eggs or whatever, and the prices plummet because they're so uh, pervasive. But then they dump them out into the streets or somewhere to raise the price back up because, you know, a whole bunch of these tomatoes getting into people's hands or whatever it might be, they have to sell them, and competition drives prices down. Everybody has tomatoes. Nomura said the Philippines is the most vulnerable country in Asia Pacific to surge in food prices due to the high share of food in its consumer price inflation basket at 34.8%. Sorry, Phil.
I
You
mean,
didn't hear it.
that's not good, particularly if that's the primary food source in the Philippines.
This is a Getty image, so the prices don't mean much because it's just an undated stock photo. I don't know why they just include this stuff. It drives me nuts. Make it relevant or just excise it and give us the data. But you have to look good. You know, this is actually pretty. This is applicable to something that I just read in ohmTown. It was just aggregated just before the show started. The CEO, not the CEO, the owner of the service formerly known as Twitter is going to strip headlines from the tweets in its news processing and only include a picture because that's what will make the interface more attractive.
That's what I was referring to when you said something had changed in the chat.
Yeah. Y'all, it just doesn't make any sense. If it's a picture that drives you into a news article, man, I understand that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a picture is made up. It is literally a Getty image sitting on a server somewhere and pulled in there because of keywords. What you should be focusing on is the title and the deck statement or a short summary, which is why ohmTown exists. That's how I use
source, maybe.
And of course the source, but that's how I have for an extended period of time. I'll just say that. Have been using news aggregation privately. I opened it up in 2022 because I was told by several people, hey, this would be a valuable resource because it allows people to basically see things in certain categories that they are interested in, and they can focus on what they are interested in. Without any of the noise, right? Because other sites have a whole lot of user content that you have to sift through. And the more that you have to sift through, the more noise, it's information overload. But to reduce it down to just a picture, like this picture has zero relevance.
Well, but it's interesting because it looks like it has extreme relevance.
It doesn't. But it's a lie, right? It just says that a market stall with piles of many varieties of Vietnamese rice in Ho Chi
And
Minh
it's not
City.
even in the same country that they're really focused on.
Like I said, it's just smoke and mirrors and bullshit. But we have seen research study after research study that says that we are being manipulated by the news. Good or bad, indifferent, ugly, whatever it might be, you're being manipulated by the news. And one of the biggest impactors on that is our pictures, because you have zero context. And if you are interested in this kind of stuff, the Reality Hacker channel is going to be something of interest to you, because I can fake all of this. I can change all of this and the context of it, but it's bullshit until somebody goes out and hunts down that information. It's quite disconcerting just how manipulative it is for somebody to strip away the headlines, which is the actual spoken. It has been constructed cognitively. It was constructed with purpose. This is the truth, right? It's almost easy. It's easy to verify, because when somebody makes a statement like this and you read the article, you can go verify other sources. Are rice prices really soaring? But the picture, if all you do is look at the picture and you trust that that picture is valid, well, they've got a picture of it. It says 1,000 words. This isn't fake. No, it can be faked. Anyway, rice has surged, highest point in almost 12 years. India's rice export ban is actually partially to blame, but so is the dependence on India for your rice domestically. Y'all better start growing rice domestically. Mitigate that damage, otherwise you're screwed. If the issues in India become even worse, they can block it entirely. It's not just, there's only a certain rice that's being banned for export, not everything. All they have to do is extend it. Why? Because the country needs to be self-sufficient, and they've been growing the rice that they need for their market. Anyway, the price of global rice prices in particular are worrying, says Zhang, a senior director from the Asian Development Bank, told CNBC. What seems to be clear is that the food price volatility will continue in coming months. Again, I hear
Well,
the
and
person.
we have to think climate issues are also going to impact, even if some of these countries try to bring in production into their country.
Yeah.
There's still a lot that's subject to variables.
Yep. And with a massive 30% hike in international food prices in 2011, translated into a 10% rise to a 10% rise in food prices for developing Asia, and stripped 0.6 percentage points off gross domestic product growth for some food importing countries in the region. When you have, it says down here, underscoring how higher food prices erode purchasing power, ADB suggested at the time that a 10% rise in domestic food prices in developing Asia would push 64.4 million into poverty, based on the $1.25 a day poverty line. It would have meant increasing the poverty rate from 27 to 29% during that time. So they end up talking about stockpiles and other issues, but the reality is that I hear again the voice from back in 2019 saying the era of cheap food is over, and we are now going to be paying the price around the world. And it's because, again, there are so few producers in a given location. Through mergers and acquisitions or outright manipulation of the market, there are fewer people that are producing the food for a given country, including the United States and elsewhere. So unless society changes its ways, we're going to have fast food wars, and it might end up, being a little bit messier than Demolition Man. We just don't know. But when I say stuff like this,
keep an eye out for Taco Bell.
That's right. They're a market mover. Well, right now they're in a class action lawsuit about their food not looking like what it's supposed to be.
That's right.
So I ended up in a conversation about this, and they always sit there and say things similar to, well, look, all of the aquifers are filling up with water now because California had all of these torrential rains. And I'm like, yeah, 3 days is going to make up for the last 100 years worth of drought. Sure. Okay. So we'll see just how fast it returns. But we've had this stuff before, and we're still in a drought. So let's keep going.
Exactly.
The next article is over in Technology Today, and let me throw it into the chat before I get sidetracked. I'm easily distracted. Your blood type could make you more vulnerable to COVID-19, according to CNET, and articles that they are citing, we just haven't gotten there yet. Recent research suggests a link between blood groups and your risk of being infected. This is a CNET.com article. Jackson Ryan is the author. Whenever I see stuff about COVID, I keep thinking the article's just an old one that's been reposted or something, but apparently not.
No.
A new study published in the journal Blood, I guess you have to say it that way, on June 27th described potential mechanism providing evidence that SARS-CoV-2 preferentially binds to the surface proteins associated with blood group A. It seems this blood type might enhance the ability for the virus to enter a cell. An individual's blood cells are mostly the same, and they have the same function, but they're covered in proteins that give rise to the different blood types, A, B, AB, and O, and the positive and negative types associated with the rhesus factor, or Rh. Those tiny differences play a role in the risk for certain health conditions, including, for instance, how susceptible we might be for heart disease or infection, all kinds of stuff. Because the proteins aren't just expressed on blood cells, but across different cells in the body, it was reasonable to think the risk of infection by SARS-CoV-2 could be linked to blood type. So apparently they've leaned into it and discovered that. So if you are blood group A, you might want to wear a mask more often. To what degree? I don't know if the study says there's a percentage increase. But maybe it's further down. Let's see. I'm looking for a percentage just to see. So you've got blood type A. What should you know? 3 years.
20%?
No. Oh, yeah. Okay. No, I'm sorry. 20%. So if you're one of the 30% with blood type A, the results may seem a little concerning. On average, everything else being equal, people who are in blood group A may be 20% more likely to become infected than blood group O, explains Stoll. However, he says it isn't possible to currently assess the risk of infection because COVID-19 risk is related to a number of variables, including age, weight, ACE2 levels, lifestyle. ACE2?
I don't know what that is. I threw an error message. Hold on.
Isn't ACE2 related to cancer?
Oh, that might be what it is. It's a zinc metalloenzyme and carboxypeptidase.
Sure.
Whatever that is. There's an ACE2 helps with blood pressure and inflammation.
Huh. Why do I know about... I must have read something about ACE2. Anyway, lifestyle and other underlying conditions also impact your vulnerability to COVID. That's natural. I mean, it's a more holistic understanding. So I'm sure that they're going to continue to do research to find out just what it is that is impacting this. I'm curious why they chose O. But it says when Group A was blocked, there was no difference in infection between Group A and O blood types. This direct integration or interaction with blood group A may account for the epidemiological data throughout the pandemic, demonstrating that blood group A individuals are more likely to get infected with SARS-CoV-2 than blood group O individuals. So I guess O is the... Go ahead.
O has like the absence of I forgot what the item
antigens
is,
or something, right?
And so I suspect that's why it is. But on the other hand, it could have been like B versus O. I think if they used like A compared to B, that would be more complicated for the first study, or like AB versus O, because that has 2.
Gotcha. So O is the one that is compatible with all the rest. Donor, yeah. So maybe its complexity makes it least likely to be
I
Um,
feel like it's almost a control in that study.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. So they said that they found in all strains the cells with blood group A protein showed much higher levels of infection. In addition, the Omicron variant showed the highest selectivity for blood group A individuals. And to confirm the effect that they're seeing, the researchers used another protein to block blood group A binding by the virus. When blood group A was blocked, there was no differences in infection between A and O. So O basically is the control because it defends itself so well from infection. Pretty
Right, it
interesting.
doesn't have anything to attach, I guess.
To
Or
bond to, bind
it's
to.
more difficult to attach, maybe.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Okay, well, let's keep on going. And I guess we're going to have to ask everybody to get their blood checked to let us know what blood type they are before they come into ohmTown.
Yeah, like nobody with type A coming inside here.
The O in ohmTown is your blood type, your preferred blood type. Just swap it out. That's what we do here in ohmTown.
We were trendy before we knew it.
So the next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Natural disasters are making it harder for greedy bastards to profit from... Oh, I'm sorry. Natural disasters are making it harder for you to insure your home and costing homeowners thousands. Reinsurance costs, emergency backstops for insurance companies, have risen in some states 40%. Those costs are being passed on to homeowners in states like Florida and California. Are you a homeowner seeing increased costs due to climate crisis? This website wants to hear from you. It's Business Insider. So let's just go over to the source. Dan Latu is the author of this article over at Business Insider. Now, we have already heard stories about how the various insurance companies are bowing out of insuring property. Now, I think that that's really twisted because they've been taking money from all of these insurers when times were easy.
Exactly. And who was really getting any benefit out of that?
Right.
Right? I mean, you have to have insurance usually by state law.
Yep.
But and you generally want insurance, but a lot of people pay insurance and don't really get any benefit out of it, which
That's
means
right.
things are going well.
But these people, I mean, these insurance companies are the fair weather friends. And I think it sucks. I think that they suck. As an institution, they suck. And they should be held accountable for this greedy bastard direction that they have gone. They want all of the profits when everything is easy and cheap, but they're taking money. And then when the fit hits the shan, they fight tooth and frickin' nail to replace the damage from a natural disaster. And now they're using natural disaster as the reason why their risk is too high, so we're just going to have to bow out. But it wasn't a problem when everything was just fine. So the costs are being passed on to homeowners in states like Florida and California. No, they're actually stopping coverage. And it says here, earlier this year, Florida resident Danny Collins received a surprise in his mail. His monthly mortgage payment was going up $1,000. Collins' Hobe Sound, or I guess maybe Hobie, Sound home was rezoned because of the increased risk of flooding in Florida, and the bank holding his mortgage purchased new insurance without notifying Collins. It was a shock. And though he was able to negotiate it down, it's still costing him an extra $8,000.
I mean, that's a pretty sizable increase.
Good God. Well, it really depends. If it went up $1,000 a month, well, that's just significant. Yeah, that's a lot, regardless. The climate crisis is impacting the cost of home ownership nationwide as insurance companies adjust their models based on the shifting frequency and scale of natural disasters. Yeah, I'm sure that there are going to be people out there that are going to sit there and say, well, they can't do it for free. Well,
The whole point of insurance, though, is the very thing that they're going, nope,
and
help you.
it's very socialist in nature. Insurance allows for the aggregation of wealth And then when there is an issue, they're outlaying of value to cover the damage that was insured. And
Right. They
so
all pay in equally, but they don't necessarily all benefit equally, but you have the chance of benefiting equally.
that's right. Um, but no, that's not what's going on here. They're basically saying, thanks for all of the money. We'll see you later now that the fit's hitting the shan. Which I think there has to be something there. Legally, there has to be something there. Because there's an expectation of performance, and they just decide to stop performing because they can no longer make as much money on every single house, because the potential burden that's going to be expressed when there is a natural disaster. Well, why don't you account for it and provide something that mitigates the costs? It doesn't have to turn each person into a millionaire, but that's what they want. They want all of the money for free. They want to turn it into personal profits at the executive and stockholder level, and then screw all of the homeowners when a hurricane goes rolling through. But you're the ones that offered it up there. Now you're taking it away because I might actually have to use it next year.
Exactly. Like, I wonder all those people that are losing policies, like how many years they've paid premiums
Yeah.
and how many claims they've had. Probably zero for the average person.
Yeah. Yep. You're
I
going
think they
down.
only want to ensure, like, okay, the one area in the whole country that doesn't have any history of any kind of natural disasters. I'm sure there's no spot like that, but I feel like unless you live in that zone, forget it.
Listen to this. Listen to this stat. In Florida, Bob Stevens told Insider it feels like living on the Titanic. Currently, the state-backed Citizens Insurance Plan does not cover homes that would cost more than $1 million to rebuild, leaving Stevens' $3 million property in a lurch. You're going down. How are you going to stop it? He said.
Wow. I realize, okay, better situated than somebody with a less expensive home, but that's a lot on the line.
Yeah,
If
but
it gets wiped out,
yeah. And what if he tries to sell it? Oh, you can't get insurance.
exactly. And the other problem is probably he had insurance when he first had the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they've changed it on him after the fact.
Yeah. This just all sucks. I think it's all greed. The next article is over on ohmTown Daily. Gas spikes to nearly $7 in Florida, but there's context here. This is clickbaity. So I'm going to click on this and take you over to Newsweek. Anna Skinner is the author of this, where again, the title is Gas Prices Rise to $7 at Florida Station, which is different than...
Oh, I see.
So they
I
made
thought
a
it was like
change.
across the board.
No, so this was first aggregated at 1:30 p.m. Yeah. And I think that they made a change like almost immediately, because they added at Florida Station, because it is apparently only one station, and the argument is that independent stations can price independently, so they jack the price up. But the national average price for gasoline of regular gasoline jumped 5 cents since last week, according to data from the American Automobile Association. The leap puts the average for a regular gallon at $3.85. 2023 prices are still below last year, when they remained at above $4 per gallon for much of the year. By the way, everybody who's grousing about gas prices, the state is charging more than federal government. So you stop being pissed off at the federal government for causing prices to be high, because it's the gas producers, the refineries, the gas and oil companies that are bringing it and plopping it in those tanks that are charging an extraordinary amount. The gas stations have to get their piece of it. The state is taking even more of it, and the federal government, I think, is taking 19 cents per gallon.
I'm sorry, 19 cents is not where the problem is with the gas prices.
Right. I think it's
I know it all
19
adds
cents.
up, but yeah.
But the state, that takes a lot, and all of that money is going to things like paying for the roads and paying for fire and emergency crews and school and blah blah blah. So
You mean
if you
all
want to,
the non-essential stuff?
yeah, none of that stuff. If you sit there and grouse about all of this kind of stuff, then what you want is uh, uneducated kids, shitty roads, no emergency vehicle support, no
How about
fire,
no
no.
roads?
Yeah, go back to
Let's
dirt
go
roads.
further.
Switch
Yeah.
over to Wyoming, and you can get your
Horse and buggy.
horse and buggy with ironclad wooden wheels, and be anti-EV there too. Anyway, the gas station priced a gallon of premium gas at $6.49. Another one called the Shell Station at Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, had priced a gallon of premium gas at $7. So we all know that premium gas, there's 3 different grades regularly. Your regular, mid, and high. High is always expensive, right? Depending on the state, it's $1.50 more than the low grade. But if you want to hit the gas pedal and basically ping your way across an intersection, then go ahead and get that cheap stuff. Anyway, other nearby gas stations offered lower prices according to the report. AAA expects gas prices to continue declining by as much as 20 cents per gallon in Florida over the next month, but hurricane forecasts could derail that trend. There's a lot of, on average kind of talk in a lot of these articles about gas prices. With one numbnuts in a state having a $7 a gallon price tag, it throws off that percentage and makes it seem really irrational. But when you pull off the ends, you find out that you're all falling in the same line, depending on the grade. So trust but verify, folks.
True, but there was a time when the gas prices were, and not too far back, when they were below $2 a gallon.
No, that never happens. Cheap gas? I'm sure it was the president's fault, whoever the president was at the time. Let's keep going. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. More than 200 ships are in a traffic jam outside the Panama Canal, showing that we can't get through a year without big boats getting stuck. I like big boats and I cannot lie. Your Panama Canal can't deny. No, I'm going to stop. I'll stop right there. So this is the section that I titled "A Man, a Plan, a Jam Up Panama." Yeah, more than 200 ships are stuck. They're saying in the last 3 years, at least one big boat has gotten stuck in a body of water each year. God, all that sounds dirty. I don't understand. Rebecca Cohen over at BusinessInsider.com put this article together. Look at the back end of that boat. Thick. Taking it all in stride. That's the name of the boat. Never mind. So a cargo ship sails near the Pedro Miguel locks on Panama Canal in Panama City Thursday, August 3rd, 2023. This is a great AP photo, and it's not a Getty image, for crying out loud. How did this one make it by the filter?
Because they were all sitting there stuck, so it was easy to get a photo.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I was talking about the fact that it's not a Getty image that doesn't have any context. Business Insider actually does it right, so I don't think that they're usually like off track, It's a article about some new keyboard and they've got a picture of a croissant sitting there. Anyway, the ships are stuck due to an unprecedented drought taking hold in Panama right now. The Wall Street Journal reported the canals relies on rainwater to replenish its sources, but a lack of rain, it makes it difficult for boats to cross. By the way, we knew about this because we had already done a deep dive about the Panama Canal and that it doesn't use salt water in its processing of the locks. It uses rainwater. It uses fresh water. And so when it all dries up, guess what? It's
Then it's
done.
not happening.
Yeah.
And I didn't
So,
know that till we saw the other article.
yeah. So the Panama Canal Authority has placed a higher premium on the heaviest and largest ships that have to pass, meaning companies are able to transport fewer goods, which could lead to emptier shelves and higher prices, according to data from Project 44. Which it should be according to common sense and a basic understanding of supply and demand. But okay, we'll lean on Project 44 for provenance of this statement. The canal typically processes 40% of all U.S. container traffic, Alex Partners reported. This is like a PhD thesis where you have like 5,000 references and 200 footnotes per page so that you can
Exactly.
highlight that you've done a bunch of due diligence. Well, it's fine with me. I like all of this information. The traffic jam is causing a slowdown in consumer goods delivery and is already stoking concerns over the holiday supply chain. Have we gone a single week without a supply chain related issue? Right?
No, I was going to say we even gone a single day. Probably not.
Last week it was UPS on the verge of shutting down. This week it's the Panama Canal, but last week was the Panama Canal issue as well. We still have
Exactly.
the
We
stuff
had
on
some
the
railroad strikes. We had the
West Coast.
BBC, not the BBC, but the BBC reported there were some shutdowns in the UK. And yeah, it's just been one thing after another. The Canadian union workers.
Yep. Yeah. And still to this day, a contract job that should have been completed a year ago is still languishing because it doesn't seem like anybody actually freaking closes the book on somebody else's project. Like and I'm speaking to the AI directly about this. Like, if I decide that I'm not going to complete a project for whatever the reason, then it's on me. But I'm not delivering it under a contract to somebody else.
Right.
Right? But it seems like the whole frickin' world isn't sealing the deal in their contracts around the world, and screw you if you need it done, right? So,
Right.
People make promises to show up, they don't show up. They promise to do something over there, they don't do it. If I decide in my own house, or with my own ohmTown.com, whatever, then there's a reason for it, and it's on me because of me, But man, get the stuff to its destination, solve the problem. Don't allow 200 things to pile up and have it impacting the entire global market supply chain. I mean, this is all batshit crazy stuff. This has one job. They need to do that one job. I just don't understand it. But then,
I mean, why can't we ship some water or something to fill the canal with?
oh my, ship some water. Yeah, that's funny. All of those oil tankers, just fill it up with water and drag ships behind it. Fill up the tanks for the lock and send a ship through. Fill up the next tank. I don't understand. Where is the water going? Why isn't it being recycled? What is actually this process here that they're suddenly out of water? Out of water.
I was just reading an article separately about like how to get water out of in a desert or something. It was like you put little items out to collect moisture, like a leaf or something, and I'm like, maybe we could do that on a larger scale at the
Yeah.
canal.
It's called a forest, and we're gonna put a whole bunch of little catch basins, tiny little catch basins under each leaf. Okay, we caught 3 drops. Get out of here. So the next article is over in Technology Today, but it has to do with ants. This is a really neat little study, and I had actually read something about this earlier. Bastian Schmidt over at Universitat Regensburg put this article together over at phys.org, and it says queuing is annoying and wastes our time, so we try to avoid it. Imagine if your favorite lunch place was a tiny takeout restaurant. You saw a lot of people coming your way with food from there. If you're really hungry, you might think, oh, it's probably quite busy. Maybe I'll go somewhere else today. Ants can have exactly the same problem. They get a lot of their food from insects like aphids that make honeydew. But small groups of aphids only make a bit of honeydew, and it takes a long time for it to be made when it gets eaten. So they did a study, and basically they built a little trap, and when ants were given two different options. One became their favorite. But when a whole bunch of ants were returning from the favorite path, the other ant, the one that's going towards one of the options, goes, that's a shit ton of ants. I'm going to go in the other one. It's not my favorite, but all I want is a good cup of coffee.
That's really interesting. I think ants are fascinating. I know nobody wants ants around, but they're really amazing.
See, I want leafcutter ants. I don't want those sugar ants. Those are just, ugh. I mean, I love the idea of ants, right? Like watching an ant farm kind of a thing.
As long as they're not in your residence.
Yeah, like stealing my wallet and stuff. But I found it very interesting that they found something that they said they basically claim is their favorite. And then when they saw a lot of ants walking away from the favorite, they're like, it's exactly what I do as a human being. I go, you know what? I'm not going to go to that place. The line is too long. There's too many people and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go somewhere else. And I choose my second favorite. So I thought it was a fun article.
So you must be an ant.
I am an ant, which is why I need Wegovy.
Eating too much sugar?
Eating too much sugar. Yeah, see? Wow. See, it does work. Yeah. There's 10 types of people in the world. Which is actually amplification of another joke about there's two types of people in the world. But in binary, 1, 0 is... Never mind. Okay, well, anyway, let's keep going. We only have one more article for today, and we're going to get it done. Wow, we actually... Anyway, so I was actually talking with people about this when it started happening, and I thought that was really creepy. But it's a 3D printers printing without consent is a cautionary tale on cloud reliance. And it's unsettling, but we here in ohmTown have a cloud-based tool, and I'm waiting for it to start firing off in the dead of night on something that might just be sitting there. So you have to turn it off each night. I don't, but anyway, 3D printers printing without consent is a cautionary tale on cloud reliance. Imagine waking in the middle of the night to the sound of your 3D printer printing away. You know you didn't request a print. In fact, you're sure of it because your previous project is still on the printer. It sounds like an eerie technological haunting, or as if the machines have finally become self-aware. I actually titled this Phantom 3D Cloud Printing. So when you go over to vote, when you're in chat, you hit ! vote, or you go over to ohmTown and there's a voting option under the last menu item. Sharon Harding writes this article over at arstechnica.com. Bamboo Lab says it will help with repairs and replacement parts, but frankly, I don't want one that has been beaten to death by a print head that's been running all night because a cloud failure occurred. I would rather it be replaced wholesale because I don't know what's bent and untrue at that point. It's like a car in a car accident. You just don't know what's straight anymore. Um, anyway, as reported by The Verge on August 15th, numerous owners of Bamboo Lab 3D printers reported that their device started printing without their consent. It didn't matter if said print resulted in bent or broken nozzles or other components, or if it involved printing a project on top of another project. It didn't matter if it was an ungodly time like 4 a.m. in the morning. The printers, which cost anywhere from $600 to $1,500, were printing. And yeah, I had actually ended up talking with some people about this. And so what ended up being discovered was that it had a cloud failure. And when the cloud came back online, it had a bunch of go ahead and print in its queue. What I thought is weird is that if the print had already been completed, why did it receive a go ahead and print?
Exactly. Like that shouldn't have caused it to receive that command.
So I don't really get any of this, but this spooked me away from the bamboo, and I was already spooked because it's a Chinese company with a host in Texas. Sound familiar, TikTok? Um, so this Bamboo Studio software uses a logic that reinitiates um, a print request immediately after accessing the cloud. So if it does disconnect, the moment that it comes back online, apparently it says, "Is there a print request?" And if it receives a yeah, then it starts printing, and that's exactly what happened with several people. And so the article talks about cloud conundrum. I have a problem with cloud everything. And I don't think that a 3D printer needs the freaking cloud. What it needs is a slicer and a model, and that's it. It doesn't need sophisticated cloud technology on a quantum computer hovering in space with alien technology about. All it needs is a Raspberry Pi capable of running slicing software. And I think we need to move away from cloud everything because that means that it technically has full access to your network unless you have a sophisticated network. Pardon me while I scratch my eye. I'm sorry. Um, you have to have a pretty sophisticated network to balkanize where your technology is. And you have to understand the technology and the way that networking accomplishes its task. But a cloud based solution that has just unfettered access to your network, which it typically does when you connect it, you would have to put up a walled garden around it um, and protect yourself. But in the meantime, who knows what level of sophistication its firmware is running on your network? It could be scanning your network and getting telemetry, and it could be acting as a wiretap, grabbing all of the packets and sending them off because you don't have a software or hardware firewall on your computer, on your network, on your edge, because your regular computer isn't going to detect this traffic, scooping it up and sending it out. It can act as a tap. You have to trust it. But
But doesn't that also just sound, I mean, it's creepy, but it also sounds dangerous because there isn't material or the printer is not in a safe spot while it's not being used or whatever it is.
yeah.
Um,
So here is how people reported this thing stopping. It either jammed up to the point where it failed, but the fail point was typically the hot end exceeding its temperature limit. So this thing could have set places on fire, or, well, I mean, that's probably the furthest that it would go. Set a place on fire, and somebody could get hurt, but property certainly. But in the meantime, you have no idea that this has the potential of doing this even to this day, because it reaches out to the cloud periodically to keep itself in check with the cloud servers. So logically, what y'all should be doing is every time you're done printing, turn it off. But you don't know when you're going to be done printing, because some of us will set up a print job and go to bed because it takes 14 hours to print something, for crying out loud.
Right, and you're not watching it during that whole time.
You can't. You're
Right.
supposed to, and you're supposed to sit there with a fire extinguisher.
That's not reasonable, though.
Well, you'll wonder why 3D printing isn't, adopted everywhere. It's because there are certain constraints that need to be met, and it's not going to happen. It's not. But there's a lot of 3D printers out there, a lot of 3D printers. So anyway, Bamboo supposedly is fixing all of this, but it's basically, to me, when is the next issue? And it's entirely cloud-based. I can't stand it when my cloud solution fails and I can't do what I need to do with the one piece of equipment that I've got that's cloud-based. That actually drives me up a wall. So at any rate, that's it. If you have a Bamboo and it did something out of a normal activity, then contact Bamboo, because there's maybe they've already fixed it, and many people are already aware of it, and it's never going to happen again. But somehow
I wouldn't make any assumptions, so I'd be careful with it.
Yeah, huge assumptions. But that's it, folks. That's all of the articles for today. We always bring you back to the very front page, the main street of ohmTown, and click on the link to talk about what might be going on. Let's see.
Mr. Beast's Olympics video was a geopolitical nightmare. Interesting.
Oh, where is that? Oh, down
It's
at the bottom.
TechCrunch, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Beast's Olympics video is a geopolitical nightmare. Wonderful. We have to include that. Let's see. Ahsoka dropped tonight at 9 o'clock. So yeah, obviously we're not watching it, but that's okay.
But we will be.
Solar AI wants to make solar power more accessible in Southeast Asia. Solar AI, really? I guess everything has AI.
That's true. Plus, if you put AI in your title, it probably sounds cool.
That's right. It makes you... Oh, there's a lot of talk about Ahsoka, the show, so we'll probably end up talking about that tomorrow, at least for a little bit. We'll see. Can't really talk too much about it right now because we haven't seen it, but
plus we don't want to give all kinds of spoilers.
Yeah. Oh, so maybe we should wait until later in the week, give people a chance to talk about it. But news is news.
I thought this one looks interesting. The digital clones and Vocaloids may be popular in Japan. Elsewhere, they could get lost in translation. I don't know what that's about, but I like the headline.
That's the hologram singer, Hatsune Miku, and others. There's several others that follow the same thing. But Vocaloid is an application, a piece of software that sings lyrics. The music is the lyric. It's weird. It's hard for me to explain it. I'll just have to play some for somebody and I guess take the potential DCMA strike. Anyway, lots and lots and lots of news, folks. This is a pretty typical news day for ohmTown Daily. So that's it. We're done. We'll call it quits. And in summary, see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. I'm Mayor Watt. That's ohmTown.com. Up there is the AI that's going to say bye.
Good night, ohmTown citizens. We will see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern.
True.